There's a strange silence before a warning hits you. You can feel it in your chest before you even hear it. It's not fear. It's that pull inside, that whisper that says, stop. But people don't like stopping, do they? They like testing limits, dancing on the edge, convincing themselves they can handle it. They say things like, just one more time. Just a little longer. It's not that bad. And every time they say it, they step closer to something they won't be able to walk away from. People always think they can get away with it one more time. Just one more step past the line. One more taste of danger. One more lie to themselves. They think they're clever, that they can cheat the system, outsmart the consequence, slip past the edge, and still make it back untouched. But that's the trick. The illusion that the line isn't real. That's how it gets you. The warning always comes before the fall, but people treat it like background noise. They hear it, they feel it, but they keep walking, smiling, pretending it's nothing. That's how they lose everything, by ignoring the voice that tried to save them. You know that feeling in your chest, that uneasy silence that creeps in before something goes wrong. That's not random. That's your signal, your alarm, your last invitation to turn around. But you silence it. You drown it with excuses. You tell yourself, muff, I've done this before, and nothing happened. You treat mercy like it's infinite, like the warnings will always come. But they won't. Sooner or later, that voice gets tired of being ignored. It stops calling your name, and you're left standing in the wreckage, wondering when it all went wrong. The truth is, you always knew. You knew it before it happened. You felt it in your bones. You saw the signs, the patterns, the tension in the air. But you called it overthinking. You told yourself to relax, to have faith, to trust that it would be fine. But faith isn't denial. Trust isn't blindness. When the warning comes, it's not asking for your courage. It's asking for your obedience. You think you're brave for pushing forward, but sometimes real courage means stopping, turning back, admitting that this path isn't safe anymore. That's not fear, that's wisdom. But people don't want wisdom. They want control. They'd rather fall than admit they were warned. There's a certain arrogance in ignoring warnings, a kind of pride that whispers, I'm different, I'll be fine, I can handle it. That's how destruction disguises itself as confidence. You think you're strong enough to flirt with the edge, but the edge doesn't care who you are. It only knows gravity, and gravity never negotiates. The warning is there to keep you from falling, but if you treat it like a joke, it'll watch you fall without blinking. That's not cruelty, it's consequence. The problem is people mistake silence for permission. They think because nothing happened yet, nothing will. But silence isn't approval. It's patience. And patience always runs out. The warning is your grace period. It's the universe saying, this is your last chance to change. But the more you ignore it, the less time you have. The more you pretend you don't hear it, the louder the consequence becomes. Until finally, it doesn't whisper anymore, it roars. And by then, it's too late to turn back. You might think you're fooling everyone, hiding what you're doing, masking your intentions, pretending everything's fine. But the warning doesn't need proof. It sees beyond your excuses. It doesn't care how well you hide it, because it's not watching your actions. It's watching your heart. It knows when you're about to cross a line you can't uncross. That's why the warning feels personal. Because it is. It's customized for your downfall. It's not meant to shame you. It's meant to stop you. But if you keep pretending you don't hear it, eventually, the warning becomes a witness. It stops trying to protect you and starts testifying against you. You ever notice how the first time you do something wrong, it feels heavy? Your heart pounds, your mind races, your conscience screams. But the second time, it's quieter. The third time, quieter still. Until one day, you don't feel it at all. That's how it works. Every time you ignore that inner voice, you teach yourself how to live without it. And once you stop hearing it, you stop being protected by it. That's the true danger, not the act itself, but the silence that follows it. People like to call consequences bad luck. They say, "I don't know why this is happening to me." But deep down they do. The warning wasn't unclear. They just didn't like what it said. The truth was too inconvenient, too limiting, too painful to accept. So they rewrote it. They convinced themselves it didn't apply to them. But the truth doesn't bend. It breaks those who resist it. And by the time they realize the warning was love, it's already turned into judgment. The irony. The ones who ignore the warning always look shocked when the fall comes. They act surprised, confused, betrayed. But there's no betrayal in consequence. There's no trick. The signs were there all along. They just refuse to see them. Because it's easier to believe that life is unfair than to admit that you were told to stop and chose not to. That's the quiet tragedy of it all. People think they're running toward freedom when they're actually walking into chains. So when you feel that tug in your chest, that hesitation before the choice, that whisper that says, "Don't," that's not weakness. That's your last warning. That's the universe, the truth, whatever you want to call it, pulling you back from the edge. You can ignore it if you want. You can convince yourself it's nothing. But once you cross that line, you can't say you weren't warned. Because deep down you always knew. You just didn't listen. You knew it, didn't you? That small whisper inside your head, the one that said, "Don't do it." You tried to silence it, drown it under excuses, laughter and fake confidence. But deep down you heard it. That's not fear. That's not paranoia. That's the warning. The final one. Because when you stand too close to the edge, something inside you starts to shake, not because you're weak, but because some part of you already knows. You're about to lose something you can't get back. It starts small. A decision that feels harmless. A shortcut that seems innocent. A temptation that feels deserved. You think it's no big deal. You convince yourself everyone else is doing it. But that's the trap. The moment you begin reasoning with danger, You've already stepped into its mouth. You think you can control it, but no one ever controls the thing that promises pleasure and hides destruction. There's always a moment right before the mistake, a flash, a breath, a voice inside that says, "Don't." But you ignore it because that voice sounds inconvenient. You tell yourself you'll be careful. You say, "Just this once." You believe you'll stop before it gets bad. That's the lie everyone tells themselves right before they fall. Because sin never looks like sin when it's smiling at you. It looks beautiful. It looks kind. It looks like relief. It shows up when you're tired, lonely, desperate for something to feel good again. It doesn't force its way in. It waits. It studies you. It knows when your guard is down. And that's when it whispers the offer. Just one more time. Just one more try. Just one more taste. And suddenly, what you said you'd never do becomes what you can't stop doing. The warning doesn't come wrapped in thunder or lightning. It comes in silence, in hesitation, in that slight discomfort you feel right before you cross the line. That's how you know. That's how you sense you're being tested. The universe gives you these moments, not to control you, but to save you. But humans, they love to play with the fire, don't they? They see the flames, they feel the heat, and still they reach for it. Because it's glowing, because it looks alive. And when it burns them, they scream. But even then, part of them loves it. Because pain has a strange beauty when you've forgotten what peace feels like. You want to know what makes this warning the last one. It's because sometimes life stops rescuing you. Sometimes, after all the ignored signals, it lets you face what you've been running toward. Not out of cruelty, but clarity. Because pain teaches faster than comfort ever could. You'll start losing things. People, opportunities, peace, bit by bit. Until you realize it wasn't the world taking from you. It was you trading everything away for a moment of escape. That's how it happens. You think you're in control, but control is the first thing you lose. And when it's gone, you'll wish you had listened when it was just a whisper instead of a storm. Some warnings aren't meant to scare you. They're meant to shake you awake. Because the thing you're about to do, the choice you're about to make, it's not small. It's not harmless. It carries something you can't see right now. Every wrong turn doesn't start with chaos. It starts with calm. That eerie calm before everything collapses. That's how life works. It gives you silence before the explosion. Stillness before the consequence. And you mistake that silence as approval. You think no one saw it. You think no one knows. But something always does. Something always watches. And when it moves, it doesn't warn twice. You can keep pretending you don't understand, that it's not that serious, that you're just living your life. But the truth is, you've already been told. The message already reached you. This is the final nudge before the fall, the last call before the door closes. You can still turn back. You can still choose differently. But if you walk through that door after hearing this, you won't be able to say, "I didn't know." Because you did. You felt it. and you ignored it. That's why this warning came to find you, not to scare you, but to remind you that silence doesn't mean safety. It means it's your move now. Funny thing about warnings, they don't always come in words. Sometimes they come as chaos disguised as coincidence. Sometimes they come as people walking away, doors closing, or opportunities crumbling, and you think it's bad luck, but it's not. It's protection wearing a mask. You see, the universe doesn't scream when it's trying to save you. It whispers through destruction. You just don't like the tone, so you call it unfair. But deep down, you know what's really happening. You're being pulled away from something you won't survive. Something that would rot you from the inside if you stayed. And the cruel joke, you're fighting the very thing that's trying to keep you alive. You ever notice how you beg for signs? Give me a message, you say. Show me what I should do. And then when the sign arrives, it doesn't look like what you expected. It doesn't come with comfort or clarity. It comes with pain, loss, isolation. Suddenly, the person you trusted turns cold. The plan you built collapses. The thing you thought was meant for you disappears overnight. And you panic. You think you're being punished. But no. You're being redirected. Because not every closed door is rejection. Some doors close because what's behind them would have destroyed you quietly. You think the warning is unfair, but it's mercy in disguise. It's the last attempt to pull you away before the trap snaps shut. But people don't listen to mercy. They listen to noise. They listen to what makes them feel good. They chase comfort like it's oxygen, even when that comfort is killing them. You think the voice in your head saying, "Don't do it," is paranoia, but it's your last link to sanity. It's the final spark of your soul trying to reach you before you're gone. And if you keep ignoring it, if you keep drowning it under excuses and distractions, that voice will go quiet. And that silence, that's when you'll realize what you lost wasn't the opportunity. It was yourself. You see, the warning doesn't always stop you in time. Sometimes it just slows you down long enough to notice the cliff edge before you jump. But not everyone looks down. Some people keep running because they think momentum means progress. But if you're running in the wrong direction, speed just kills you faster. That's what this is. A moment to stop before you accelerate towards something you won't come back from. The universe doesn't waste its breath on the unaware. If you've been feeling uneasy lately, if everything around you suddenly feels off, that's not coincidence. That's the shift. The warning is not a threat. It's an invitation to turn around. Think about it. Everything you've been forcing lately, the relationship, the job, the plan, the image, it's all been fighting you back. Every step feels heavier. Every door feels harder to open. And still you push. You say, "I'll make it work." But what if it's not supposed to work? What if you're trying to resurrect something that's already dead? The warning isn't saying, "You can't have it." It's saying, "You're not meant to have it right now." But ego doesn't like that. Ego wants control. Ego wants results. So it convinces you that patience is weakness and surrender is failure. But the truth is, sometimes letting go is the only way you stop the bleeding. The warning doesn't mean you're cursed. It means you're chosen for something heavier, something that demands a clean slate. But you can't receive what's meant for you while holding onto what's rotting you. That's why everything's falling apart. Not because you're unlucky, but because you're being stripped down to rebuild right. The chaos is not random. It's surgical. It's cutting away what no longer belongs. You just can't see the design yet. You're too close to the pain to notice the precision. Every crack, every loss, every delay, it's timed. It's targeted. It's deliberate. And when you stop cursing it and start listening to it, you'll understand it's not trying to destroy you. It's trying to align you. Most people won't see this moment for what it is. They'll call it bad timing, misfortune, drama. But for you, it's something different. It's your wake-up call. Because there's something in your life right now that doesn't belong in your future. You already know what it is. You've known for a while. You've just been pretending you don't. The warning is clear. The signs are louder now. The question is, how many times do you need to lose before you listen? People always think the warning comes with thunder, that it arrives in lightning bolts, loud voices, and flashing signs. But the truth, it comes quietly. It creeps into your sleep, into your thoughts, into the spaces between your words. It arrives as a strange heaviness in your chest, a gut feeling that something isn't right, a moment where your reflection looks back at you and doesn't quite feel like you. That's the warning, not the chaos that follows, but the silence before it. You feel it, but you ignore it, don't you? Because you want to believe that what you're chasing, what you're doing, what you're holding on to, it's safe. You want to believe the world is kind enough to wait for you to learn the hard way. But it's not. It gives you a few quiet chances to change direction before it starts taking things from you piece by piece. You call it bad luck when the first thing falls apart. You call it betrayal when the second thing breaks. By the time the third thing burns, you're angry at the world. You never stop to ask, maybe the world isn't against me. Maybe it's saving me. Maybe what's falling apart is what's been killing me all along. People always want the lesson to feel gentle, but truth doesn't whisper softly. It rips through your comfort until you're awake. And that's what's happening now. Everything that's making you uneasy, everything that's turning your stomach, everything that feels off, it's not paranoia. It's preparation. It's your warning before the real storm hits. You ever notice how the people you trust the most start acting different right before everything changes? How conversations that used to flow start to feel forced. How their smiles start hiding something. That's not coincidence. That's clarity slowly revealing itself. You just don't want to see it because seeing it means accepting that the story you wrote in your head is ending. You built your peace around people who were never meant to stay. You gave your energy to those who only needed it for a season. And now the season is shifting. The temperature's dropping. But you're still standing outside, pretending it's summer. You know what happens when you ignore warnings. The universe stops whispering and starts shouting. It takes away your distractions one by one until you have no choice but to face what you've been avoiding. Your phone goes quiet. Your plans fall through. The people you used to lean on disappear. Not because they hate you, but because their part in your story is over. But humans, we hate endings. We'd rather stay in pain than face the unknown. We call it loyalty, but it's fear wearing a noble face. You're afraid that if you let go, nothing will replace what you lose. But that's the trick. The warning doesn't take without giving. It just asks you to let go before it gives you something better. You can feel it already, can't you? That tension between what you know you should do and what you're scared to do. The late night thoughts that whisper, you can't stay here forever. The moments when everything around you feels too small, too fake, too heavy. That's your soul getting louder. That's the warning turning into a demand. You can't silence it with noise anymore. The music, the scrolling, the pretending. It doesn't drown it out like it used to. Because once the truth decides to wake you up, it won't let you rest until you move. Maybe you've been betrayed recently. Maybe something didn't work out the way you thought it would. Maybe life feels like it's closing in on you from every direction. But what if that's not punishment? What if it's protection? What if the rejection that broke your heart was actually the thing that saved your life? You don't see it now. But one day you'll realize the thing that hurt you most was the reason you survived. You'll look back and laugh at how hard you fought to stay in a place that was slowly destroying you. That's how the warning works. It hurts you just enough to wake you up before it's too late. There's always that moment before it all collapses, when everything feels eerily calm. The world feels distant, time slows down, and a small part of you knows something is about to change. You feel it in your bones, but you can't explain it. That's not fear. That's awareness. That's the moment when you can still turn back, still make a choice, still rewrite what happens next. But most people wait until the chaos arrives before they act. They wait for the pain to become unbearable before they finally move. And by then, it's too late. The damage is done, and all they can do is survive it. So here you are, standing at that line between what's familiar and what's necessary. Everything inside you is screaming for comfort, but the warning is clear. Comfort is the trap. It keeps you asleep while the fire burns around you. You don't need another sign. You don't need another confirmation. You already know. The silence around you isn't empty. It's loaded. It's waiting for your decision. You can listen now, or you can learn later. But you can't say you weren't warned. Arrogance is the sweetest poison. It doesn't burn when you swallow it. No, it tastes good. Smooth, intoxicating, powerful. It makes you feel untouchable. Like you've finally figured it all out. Like no one can tell you anything. You start walking differently, talking differently, convincing yourself that the warnings meant for others could never apply to you. Because you're smarter, stronger, wiser. You've survived worse. You think you can play with fire without getting burned. But that's the trick of arrogance. It blinds you right before the flames touch your skin. It convinces you the heat is just light, that danger is just a game, that your confidence is control. And then, in a blink, you're standing in the ashes, wondering how you didn't see it coming. You see, arrogance doesn't shout. It whispers. It hides in the small decisions you justify, in the little rules you break, because you think you're the exception. You tell yourself it's not wrong, it's just different. That the warning doesn't apply to you, because you know what you're doing. That's how it begins. Every downfall starts with a sentence that begins with, "I know what I'm doing." Those words have destroyed more people than bullets ever could. Because once you believe you're above the lesson has already begun. You ever notice how the most dangerous moment in life isn't when you're weak? It's when you think you've mastered everything. That's when the cracks start showing. That's when you stop listening. You stop checking your motives. You stop being grateful. You start believing that the world owes you something for all the pain you've endured. That's when humility packs its bags and leaves quietly. You don't even notice it's gone. And when it is, arrogance takes its place, smiling like an old friend. It makes you feel powerful. It makes you feel right. And that's what kills you, being right. People think arrogance is loud. They picture it in someone who brags, someone who shouts. But the real kind, it's quiet. It's in the way you ignore advice. It's in the way you roll your eyes when someone warns you. It's in how you dismiss the gut feeling that says, "Don't do this." That's arrogance dressed as logic. You convince yourself you're just being rational, just trusting yourself, just moving forward. But deep down, you know what you're doing. You're pretending not to hear the voice that's trying to save you. There's a moment, always a small one, before the fall where you could still stop. You could still turn around. But arrogance won't let you. It tells you to keep going, that stopping would make you look weak, that admitting you're wrong would make you lose face. So you keep walking, smiling, pretending everything's fine, even as the floor starts cracking beneath your feet. You hear it, but you tell yourself it's nothing. Just the sound of progress. Just the sound of your success echoing back. But the echo is hollow, because you've already stepped past the point of warning.